To order. Can we get a roll call, please?
Councilman Anderson.
Present.
Councilman Woodford.
Present.
Mayor Swallows.
Here.
Vice Mayor Epps.
Here.
Councilman Albright. 4 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. Would everyone please stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right. Item 1, consider approval of agenda as presented. Do we have any subtractions, additions to the agenda?
No changes.
Motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
All right. Consider approval of minutes of council meeting held on October 18th, 2012. Motion for approval on the minutes or any questions?
So moved.
Second.
All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
All right, item 3 of new business, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 121121, amending the budget of the general fund of the city of Cookeville for the 2012-2013 fiscal year. Sponsors Mr. Mike Davidson.
Mayor, council members, this ordinance does appropriate some additional funding. It relates to 2 items. The first item recognize additional $25,000 in revenue, which is insurance proceeds related to a police vehicle that was flooded a few weeks back. So we got those proceeds. Last council meeting, you approved a bid to purchase a new vehicle. This appropriates the funding also to replace that vehicle and the equipment in that vehicle. And in addition to that $25,000, there's a $3,000 adjustment increase to the Tennessee Rehabilitation Center. Back during the budget work sessions when they submitted their grant application to us, they had a typo in there. I picked up the number they submitted to us, which was $3,000 less than the previous funding they had the previous 2 fiscal years from the city of Cookeville. So it would get them back up to their same funding level they've had in the past couple of years from us. So the total is a $28,000 increase in expenditures with additional revenue of $25,000. That $3,000 would come out of fund balance for the general fund. But I'd recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments from the council?
Now that $3,000 is just getting them back to where they were before.
Just getting them back to the funding from the previous 2 fiscal years, yes. It's not an increase of any kind, no.
Any questions, comments? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 4, set a date, December 6, 2012, for a public hearing on ordinance 121120, revisions to the zoning code, section 231, SRA sinkhole retention area. Sponsors Ms. Kathy McLean.
The public hearing dates December the 6th, 2012, 5:30 p.m.
I have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Item 5, consider authorizing the city manager to execute an engineering contract for the Southeast Sewer Project. Sponsors Mr. Ronnie Kelly.
Mayor and council, I'm here tonight seeking authorization for the council to enter, for the city manager to enter into an engineering contract with CTI Engineer Incorporated. This contract would be for sewer service, pressure sewer services designed for the southeast section of Cookeville. There was a section, if you look at the map, a section annexed in around the year 2000, and that Planet Services sanitary sewer was promised into that area by 2015. Here's the area a little bit closer. The other areas you see there are some other deadlines we have to provide sewer services for prior annexation times. But the 2015 area is the one we're talking about, which is this area here. While we're looking at that, we were looking at this area. It made sense. There's a subdivision in this area here that it made sense to go ahead and add that subdivision. It's already built out, to go ahead and put it in this project, so we've done that. we've asked the engineer to price that way. When we were looking at the original area and how to sewer it, when we went through 2 or 3 different scenarios, we looked at gravity sewer. It was about $8 million to do that project. We did a combination of pressure sewers, gravity sewers, and it was about a $5 million plus project. And then we sort of looked at, okay, let's try to look at a pressure sewer system for this area and see how that would work and what the cost would be for it. And it came out to about a 2.7, I think, at that time. Since that time, we've added an area, so it's going to be around, our estimation is around a $3 million project. It's a pressure sewer is what we're looking at. It's like a little pump there at the house that'll do a little small force main in the road and take it back to the city's system. This is sort of what it looked like. We sort of went through this during our budget process, I believe, and sort of showed you some of the options. We've negotiated that contract, and I've listed the cost there. One of the things that's a little bit different than we normally do, we've got a preliminary engineering report in this cost. It's a $30,000 line item. And what that report's going to do, it's going to assist us in going through and setting up some policies and looking at this pressure sewer system since it's something new that we haven't done in a big project before. And so that report's going to go in and look at what's other cities done, what's worked at other cities, what's not worked at other cities, how are we going to, who's going to be ownership of these pumps, how are we going to handle all those things, and sort of look at what's worked across the state at lots of cities do this. So we wanted to make sure we get off on the right foot. And part of that report then would be to come back, have some meetings with the council. We can talk about what the findings are and sort of discuss it. And then once we all get on the same page, then we can move forward with the final design of that project. I'd recommend approval of this contract.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. We have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments from the council?
I got a quick question for you,
Okay.
Mr. Kelly. The pressure system is quite a bit less than the traditional. Is it about a third the cost?
Yes.
Is it because there's less construction or, like tearing roads up?
Yeah, with the gravity, you're going to have to follow the contours. There would have to be a big line probably down on that Fallen Water River to everything's going to drain to that point, and then you're going to have to pump it all the way back up. So pressure system is basically like putting a small water line or gas line in the road, and then a small line, doesn't have to be very deep, and then everything's just pumped into it, and it's pressurized. It's better. It's not 30 feet deep. Mm-hmm. You're not blasting rock out everywhere, so it's a lot less disruptive.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. Hey, Mr. Kelly, I just questioned kind of basically if you have a contingency. I mean, this is new for us. I know other cities have participated in this. I'm really looking forward to hearing what kind of success they've had, like the 5-year, 10-year, 15-year survival of a system like this, because our sewer systems, just the gravity system has, what's some of the oldest sewer systems we have?
30s.
1930s, yeah. So it'd be I'm really interested in looking at that. I guess my question is do you have kind of a contingency plan in place? Like what if we have our head set on funding for about we mentioned about $2 million, about a third. Do we have
$3 million?
Yeah, $3 million. Do we have contingency set in place if we sort of change our mind because we're not very sure, or I don't know if I'm asking that question very well, but you know where I'm coming from?
No.
What if we? I guess it's kind of all comes down to dollars for me in many ways. I want to do what's best, but if we end up changing our mind, are we going to be able to? I guess maybe it's a question for.
You mean after the report gets done,
Yeah.
and we sort of sit here and talk about it, and we have a couple meetings, and everybody's not comfortable with the findings
we're all-
of the report?
you know how it is. You
Well,
get
I think
all-
at that point we just step back and we figure out what we want to do. Do we want to try to spend and go gravity and go to an $8 million project?
Yeah, and I say contingency. Does that mean that we would change the width and the spread? The depth of this. How you actually included a small area because it made sense to do that at the time. Do we have a contingency set in place that if we just changed our mind because this wasn't the next best thing since sliced bread that we?
Well, I think at that point we would have to basically stop our contract with the engineer, and we would start over with an engineering contract because we're going to get into a whole different scope of services at that point. Is that what you're?
Yeah, I guess it's just I want to make sure that we're kind of getting our ducks in a row just in case this shows up. We're going like, man.
I mean, it's not rocket science. It works. It's been done, and it's been put all over the state of Tennessee. And a lot of people are just doing this now just for the cost, especially in Middle Tennessee where there's lots of rock, down in the Nashville, Wilson County. I mean, Crossville's got tons of them. Lots of cities do. And a lot of it's driven by cost.
Sure. Well, I mean, dollars talk. And
Yes.
I guess that's why that leads me to my questions about having contingency set in place. I don't want to start down a path and get real excited about it and then all of a sudden change our mind and it be exceptionally costly for us in order to kind of turn around and change that. But you're making it sound like that would be probably pretty remote chance of doing
Well, I
that.
think so. I mean, that's sort of what we talked about it during the budget process, trying to set this up to put it in our budget to sort of get your feelings on it, to whether you thought that was something you want to consider. And I felt like it was, and felt like it's something that's something we ought to consider.
No, and I'm not against it. I'm not trying to be a hurdle or anything. I just guess I'm just anytime we step into some sort of new area that I guess we cover our back, I guess, in some sort of way. And I'm kind of ignorant about what covering my back means when it comes to designing
I think
sewer
one of the
systems.
things we'll look at is, does the city maintain the pumps? Or do you want to let the homeowner maintain the pumps? Lots of those type things. Some cities do, some cities don't. What's the good and the bad? I know there has been some private developments went in with their own private installed pumps. After those people sold the house 2 or 3 times, the new people had no clue they were on their own little pump system, and it caused some issues. We would go talk to them and say, you got your own little pump, you need to take care of it, and so forth. And it's sort of an education, but some cities just maintain the pump. They take care of it, but we want to look at that. Is that the best thing to do for us?
Okay. Good. No more questions, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
So I guess,
Thank you, Mr.
of course,
Kelly.
the contingency plan would just be we would come out of the engineering contract and just talk about everything over again.
Yeah, I think the
That's what
first
I'm
step is
hearing.
going to be, let's do this study.
Right.
And then if we get, and we're going to have some meetings with you guys and with our personnel, with some of the public. I mean, we got 2 people live here now, Officer Dukes and Mr. Peak live in one of the subdivisions, so I'm assuming they'll give us some good input about what we're trying to look at. And so if we get to that point and think, well, maybe we just need to go to gravity, and then we've got to figure out then, okay, how are we going to pay for that?
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's something that'll work, can work, and does work lots of places.
It's been my experience that Mr. Kelly is pretty up to date on all the sewer stuff.
You really know how to move some, don't you?
I started to call him the king of the sewer, but then I
Don't call me
thought
that.
I shouldn't do that.
Knows how to move sewage.
That's it. He's the king of the sewage, I guess. I don't know.
Any other questions?
Call for the question.
Yeah, we better vote on this before
right.
it goes downhill
I'm ready to vote,
fast.
Mr.
All right, I'll vote.
4 yes votes.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Item 6, consider approval of amendment to contract with Cookeville Regional Medical Center for use of the employee health clinic, and sponsors Ms. Gail Fowler.
Mayor and Council, I'm pleased to bring to you for consideration this evening amendments to the agreement that we currently have between the City of Cookeville and Cookeville Regional Medical Center for utilizing their employee health clinic. These amendments will allow the services to be provided to not only our employees but also spouses and children that are currently covered under the city's health insurance plan. The changes also reflect the standard cost of $60 per visit to be billed to the city, and it also provides for a method of identification for eligible dependents. Employees have expressed an interest in the expanded services, and we believe this benefit will be very popular with our employees and their spouses and families. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have and respectfully request your approval of this amended agreement.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler. Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Ms. Fowler, this will actually save the city some money, won't it?
We think that it will.
Okay.
We certainly hope it will. Be hard to estimate right now until we see the numbers and how the volume. We do expect to see an increased volume of visits as a result of this.
My understanding is that the employees who have already utilized this service have been very pleased with it.
I've heard nothing but very positive comments. Yes, and I've participated as well, and I'm very pleased with the service they're offering.
I have as well.
Well, and I appreciate the city of Cookeville paying attention to the health of employees and their citizens too, but this is a good step, I think.
Thank you.
It's open at 7 a.m., so they can even go in before work and
That is correct.
be healed by work time, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And that's the theory, to keep our employees healthy and at
We can
work
have it
and
changed
now
to
their
6.
families. There's also reserved parking over there for the clinic, which is very nice. Yes,
Ms.
sir.
Fowler, I think it's important to note, and this is one of the questions I asked. I said, well, what's the best guess of what's going to cost? I know that was really kind of a hard to estimate, but you had made mention that it was like about $16,000 to $18,000 is what the cost of this would be, offering it to spouses and to.
I think that was an early estimate that Mike projected. And once again, until we get started with the program and see the volume and the numbers of the visits that we have, it'll be hard to estimate.
But even though the city, that plans to be an expenditure that we plan to partake in, after talking to my insurance guru to my left here, and then and Mr. Councilman Woodford mentioned that how this actually could save us some money. This is indeed preventive care for all the members of the family, and preventative care in the long run will end up saving the citizens of our city money.
We believe so.
We hope so. Certainly hope so. Thank you.
Be interesting to track on it,
Yes.
Mike. But it'll be a couple years down the road, probably. Yeah.
I think it will. Yeah.
Any other questions? All right. All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
And Ms. Fowler, thank you for doing all the work on this. It's a huge benefit. I mean, this is another just added benefit to all the employees and their family. It's a really good benefit. Item 7, consider approval of RFP for e-citation, sponsors Police Department Chief Bob Terry.
Mayor and council, this is something that we've been talking about for quite some time, and a lot of work's been put into it by Major Evans, not Officer Evans, and Mr. Shipley, Mr. Davidson, and a lot of other folks. It's been trying to help you out there. But at any rate, we feel that it's really at a tipping point where either more employees are probably going to have to be hired to handle the volume of citations or go this route. A lot of other cities have gone this route. And in an email I think I got from Mr. Davidson the other day, I agree with him completely that before we spend any money, we want to make sure that all these parts are working together and they're doing what they're supposed to do. Then we'll move forward with paying for it. You can see some of the things that are listed over there that are beneficial to it. And we really believe it's officer safety issues, efficiency, and a lot of other things we talked about in the work session. And I'd recommend your approval. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Chief Terry. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments from the council?
I have a comment, Mr. Mayor. Actually, in the work session, Chief Terry, I really appreciate all the work and effort that you guys put in this. And I was pretty much the one that was busting everybody's chops pretty much about this, because at the hospital we've been going through a big change, going from paper records to the electronic records, and seeing the turmoil and the anxiety and stuff that goes through that, and I immediately kind of transferred that to this, going from a paper system to electronic system, which has to happen, and I realize that. And I feel after speaking with all the parties involved that I feel much more comfortable with this. I think my main thing was just to make sure that we had a backup, make sure that systems, the old system kind of coming down while the new system kicks in, and make sure we have IT people available and things like these sort of things to cover ourselves while we're making this change, so not to have the whole system fall apart. And I feel very comfortable that after hammering you guys for a while, that you guys have got all your P's and Q's and I's dotted. So
One of the things to keep in mind, we're not going to be going backwards. So we're not going to be trying to reinvent and plug stuff in the system's already done. We're talking about from the day to get implemented from that day forward is what we'll be looking at. So, and I think as Major Dukes pointed out, worst case scenario, if there were one, we've still got all of the stuff housed in the police department. So if there was a problem, it'd be caught up rather quickly on those other entities.
Chief, don't you think it'd be feasible to have sort of a test run? Run a pseudo ticket through and see if it works. Tell the state this is coming, and
That question's so easy. That's the reason I brought Major Dukes with me.
I mean, I think that'd make us all feel a whole lot better if we could.
We will absolutely test the system before it goes actually online.
You will test it.
Yes.
Okay.
I
All the
volunteer
way
to
to the
give
state.
Yeah, I think city manager's volunteering for a
Yeah,
ticket.
I was going to say Larry has volunteered
Yeah,
to be
right.
the first
Can I just,
ticket.
yeah, can I drive real fast somewhere and just catch me? Just catch me.
We'll make you a believer.
I would suspect that we'll probably
really wanna
select
take
a certain
volunteer.
number of
I
citations
think
that
it'd be
we'll go
great.
through as opposed to a time frame. Just to see, we may run the first 400 or 500 through to see if it all meshes and does like it's supposed to, and then go ahead and do it. But this is nothing hasn't been done in a lot of other huge municipalities and smaller ones such as ours.
Chief, one of the things that I was impressed about not being in the police industry, it was one of the things that impressed me is that this offers a layer of safety
Yeah.
for the police officers. I was very impressed with that. Would you just
Well,
while the
what-
public hears?
among several things that it does, when the license is swiped, your driver's license is swiped, and your license plate is called in at the same time, that it, for lack of a better word, seamlessly checks for wants and warrants, stolen cars.
Yeah.
It gives a lot of historical data that comes right back through, even down to the number of citations that have already been issued to this individual. So, it could have a bearing of whether or not somebody got a warning ticket as opposed to that had never gotten a ticket before, as opposed to somebody that was, a habitual violator that needs to get a citation.
I liked the issue that the police officer will be in a safer situation in dealing with the, customer. When they walk up there, they're going to be able to keep their eyes up and not looking down constantly riding.
Well, one of the other worries that happens from time to time is that the officer's got his portable radio with him, and all of a sudden he's got somebody that's not a real sterling individual, and the dispatcher is giving out the resume while he's standing there at the door looking at him.
Right.
So a lot of times you can be back in the car and get that same information.
Yeah.
So, Councilman Anderson, a non-sterling individual would be like a not good customer.
Or maybe a too good customer.
MVP status.
I didn't really know what I guess you would.
Got an MVP card.
VIP card. Any other questions?
No.
Maybe something works out well. Maybe the county can, sheriff's department might be able to pick this up. What do you think there?
We could ask Commissioner Atwood.
We'll put him on the record. There you go.
All right, no more questions. All vote.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
No 4, we got one out.
We got one missing, don't we?
Thank you, Chief Terry. All right, this is part of the meeting where we open the floor to hear from the citizens and/or delegations. If anybody would like to come forward. First off, I would like to recognize and thank County Commissioner Mike Atwood for joining us tonight.
Chairman.
Chairman, sorry, yes. Chairman of the County Commission. Thanks for joining us. If anybody has anything, feel free to come up.
You going to say
Woodford?
something about homecoming?
Yes.
Okay.
Connie couldn't be here tonight, and she asked me to share this with you. Last Saturday, Putnam County Habitat for Humanity invited local government leaders to participate in building a habitat home. This was a requirement for a grant that was awarded to the agency. Those that participated in the bill were Representative Ryan Williams, Circuit Court Clerk Marshall Broyles, City Manager Jim Shipley, Councilman Jim Woodford, Councilman Connie Albright, plus several Habitat homeowners. If anyone would like to help with the project, please contact Pam Ely at the Putnam County Habitat office. And it was fun. It's been, thank goodness we were inside last Saturday. It was cold outside.
It was cold.
Also this weekend, over at the Leslie Town Center, is the Mistletoe Market. This benefits the Cookeville, Putnam County Animal. It's a one-time admission for $2. It's Friday and Saturday. Friday it's from 9 to 7, and Saturday it's from 9 to 5. And to top it all off, this is homecoming weekend at Tennessee Tech. Parade starts at 10:30. I think they originate down at the Hobby Lobby on Jefferson, then proceed north on Dixie. The game starts at 1:30. Tech's playing Eastern Illinois, so let's go out and show our pride for Pride this weekend. Good to be in Cookeville.
Anything else? I think Major Dukes takes the prize for tonight. He comes in here and leaves with a new sewer system and an e-ticket system.
Boy.
All right, nothing else. This meeting's adjourned.